I'm going to begin with the words of my favorite poet, Mary Oliver. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? 20 years ago, I received an identity that I never asked for. My children were my whole life. When my 21-year-old son told me on a car ride that he had actually always been a woman, 20 years ago, my whole life changed. Back before most of us in the room had ever heard of such a thing, it was a profoundly lonely experience. I knew nothing about this, and I knew no one else who knew either. I carried this grief alone, ashamed and silent. I sat alone, numb with grief, when I was unable to stop my son from traveling to Thailand for surgery that can never be reversed. And that grief was compounded unspeakably when my oldest daughter fell to the ideology as well. When I learned that she had legally changed her name and started on testosterone and changed her phone number, I emailed her. I told her that I understood that she had a new name and a new identity, and that I would always love her no matter what she did. Shortly after this, I received a typed note from her in the mail saying that she no longer wished to have any contact with me. The last time I saw my daughter was June 10th, 2018. At this time, I do not know where she is, what she looks like, what, if any, surgery she has had, or what she does with her time. She exists somewhere, but I know nothing. That was when my life became a very dark place. For a long while, it was all I could do to keep on breathing in and out. This very painful period lasted a long time for me. I shared my story with Brendan Showalter from the Christian Post. He offered me anonymity, but we both felt that the story would be more powerful if it came with my real name. I thought about this, and I decided that I had nothing else left to lose. I told my story publicly, probably the first parent to do so. And after this, my youngest child also estranged from me. And this began a very strange period in my life. I met a lot of very famous TERFs. And I became a bit well-known myself, and not always in a positive way. I started on an online parent group that thrives to this day. I cannot stress this enough. Connecting with other parents is absolutely crucial. No one will understand like another parent. I worked every day, all day, on gender issues for over 4 years. I raged, I protested, I wrote, I traveled and spoke and worked on projects and listened to podcasts and watched videos and read articles and overloaded myself on this topic. I did what most parents of ROGD kids do. I got my unofficial PhD in gender. Ask any parent here, we are the best read of the bunch. My entire life revolved around stopping this horror. I was consumed by it. It was as if I had pink and blue tinted glasses on. Everything was about trans. It was all I could think about and all I could talk about. People stopped inviting me places. Honestly, I can't blame them. I must have been insufferable. I organized and attended protests. I spoke at large events. I campaigned against and stopped Drag Queen Story Hour at the King County Library near Seattle, Washington. I talked to parents and wrote articles and letters. I tried therapy, but none of the therapists were able to help me at all. They didn't understand how traumatized I was. I went through each day feeling like an empty shell. Parent grief is ambiguous. There is no resolution, and it's also disenfranchised. When we talk about our experience, we are often told that we should have been more supportive. We spend a great deal of energy, rightly, on trying to find the best way to help our kids. But most parent support is also focused on helping us figure out what to do for the kids. In other words, everybody helps us help our kids, but nobody's actually helping us, or very few people. There's a real need for focus and care on the parents who are hurting very deeply. During this time, I did attempt to find other things that gave me joy. I enjoy art and travel. I learned to paint, and I helped give painting classes to women affected by human trafficking. I traveled to Liberia and Lebanon on medical missions. This is me running the pharmacy in a place near Beirut. I traveled solo to Greece, Paris, and Turkey. But the deep, dark hole in my soul could not be touched. Even though I filled my life up full of activities, I still felt dead inside. My life was characterized by pain that nothing could touch. I like to quilt. I continued with frantic activism. Now, I think that activism can provide an outlet for some parents, and it can also be an unfair expectation. And it can make it more difficult for us to heal when we are immersed in that dark place all the time. By early 2020, I was burning out. I had my very own article in Pink News where I was called a child abuser. I started trying to say no to a few things and found that I was only appreciated as long as I gave. I began asking myself if this was how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. My children were gone. I was fighting ghosts. I had no life of my own, only a battle I could never win. So, I gave myself permission to be happy again. Some friends took me camping. I sat in the river and I listened to the water and the birds. The beauty was still there. Briefly, I felt a bit of peace. In 2021, I met a woman who invited me to go to Mexico with her to pet baby whales. That sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? I decided to go. I turned off my phone and I told her to slap me if I said the word gender. She showed me how beautiful the desert is. We splashed in an oasis and we drove for days. We ate strange food and admired nature and laughed, and I fell in love. We got to see and touch the gray whales. It was a beautiful experience. One night, after dinner, there was a film and a talk featuring footage of a female gray whale gracefully feeding at the bottom of the ocean. I was mesmerized. Afterwards, I turned to Arla and said, I'm going to be the whale. I'm going to take in what I need and spit the rest out, and I have never been the same. Can we play this as a video? Can we play it? Okay.
It really wet. Yeah, it always seems like there's something.
It does it on purpose. It does. It knows how to do it.
Okay. It was as if an enormous and dark burden had been lifted from my shoulders. It was okay to live. It was okay to be happy. And I've never been the same. I think that a lot of us parents feel trapped in our grief. I felt that my tears were proof that I truly loved my children. I felt that if I moved on in my life and found peace, I was abandoning them. And this is understandable, but does it benefit my children if I am miserable? I think that our kids know how much they have hurt us. I think that it will be very difficult for them to face us and return if we are miserable. If the day comes when my children return, they will have missed a lot, and I would rather they find me at peace. And therefore, I no longer identify as an ROGD parent. I'm in recovery. And I know a lot of us are here and we're really hurting, and I invite you to join me, or at least allow yourself to envision in the midst of your pain that there could be healing and happiness in your future, regardless of the decisions your kids make. Do it for you and do it for them. Find peace. I learned to disentangle myself from false guilt, both the guilt that I gave to myself and the guilt that others tried to hand me, and there was a lot of it. Like any parent, I have regrets, but I know that I was the best mom I was able to be. I loved my children deeply. They were brilliant and funny and creative. They were kind of weird, which I can identify with because I was also a weird and misunderstood kid. So let's all protect the weird kids. I think Laura was the first one I heard say that. I did what I could to help them grow strong and thrive in this world, and I hope that they remember the good things that I taught them. But I bear no responsibility in bringing them to the doctor's table. That was done by those who pretend to care about our kids while bringing them empty promises, drugs, surgeries, and pronouns, and they are responsible. So I learned to practice radical acceptance. I describe it as ice for the soul. The wound is still there, but radical acceptance can help to take down the inflammation, much as applying ice to a sprained back will relieve the pain. I have done what I can, and I must learn to accept what I cannot change. I accept that it's true, for example, that I will not see my children today, and that doesn't mean I like it or that it's fair. It just means that it's true. I allow myself to feel the sadness that brings, but I remind myself that it's a fact and I can't change it. I do not read articles. I do not try to find my children's social media, and if I did, I would not look at it. It can't help them or me. I do not watch documentaries or go to protests, and I especially do not ever look at surgery pictures. Those things are important for the people who need to be educated on what gender ideology is doing to vulnerable people, but I have had all the education on this topic that I personally need to have. I do what brings me peace, and that peace has been very hard won. I know that my children know that I love them. They also know the truth. And I understand now that they chose to walk away from me because they could not be around me and stay on the course they set for themselves. There's too much cognitive dissonance, and that is why it's most often the mother who is estranged. As time went on and GenSpect emerged, as the largest and most effective org fighting for sex reality, we began to make some progress in fighting against what I believe is the worst medical scandal in the history of the world. And people with credentials began speaking up, and many of them are here in this room right today, right now, and you will never know what heroes you are to me and to so many parents. Thank you for fighting for us. So while my life is more about camping and beauty and joy now than it is about gender, I will never not care about this issue. I'm just a whole lot more focused about what I do, and that is why I have started a new project. It's called the Themis Resource Fund. I spent years raging into the wind with no results other than a feeling that I had at least done something, but the only people who were listening were people who already agreed with us. Maybe you are here and you have experienced the same thing. Now, at this point in time, there is no shortage of Substacks, articles, studies, all kinds of things. We have the WPATH, we have the CAS review, we have European countries backing down, and still our friends in the US refuse to listen and insist that there is no debate. And we have asked nicely, and then we have asked not so nicely, and still they ignore us. And when we get the rare opportunity to present our side, they call us conservative, which in the US legacy media is another word for stupid. It's become painfully obvious to a lot of us that the only way we will ever get the attention of the US media and the powerful people at the top is through lawsuits. And what we need, and what every person in this room has been harmed by this live, unregulated experiment deserves, is multi-million-dollar judgments. So yes, let's bring on the lawsuits. They need to happen, but it's a lot more complicated than that. So I would like to take a moment and acknowledge the attorneys who are taking these difficult cases. They are sacrificing, in some cases, a nice, cushy, easy career, and they are laying themselves on the line. And I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the detransitioners who put themselves into the center of this battle. I hope you all become millionaires. Okay, I don't have very much time. The problem is, it's not that the attorneys that need to get paid, it's the costs. And they are enormous. And there's a lot of barriers. So first of all, there's the statute of limitations, and these vary from state to state, and it becomes very difficult to surmount that. So I believe that if we have one goal in the US legislatively, it should be the extension of the statute of limitations so that people can get justice when they have been medically harmed, because it can take a long time to realize that you've been harmed. And then once filed, the case can linger for a long time under procedural red tape, and that can be expensive and very difficult, and it's hard to get out of that. And to win, we need expert witnesses, case review, medical records review, and money for court fees and travel expenses, and those costs can pile up very quickly. A single expert witness report can cost up to $40,000. And these reports have to be done by credentialed witnesses. Every single line is scrutinized. It is expensive. I received an estimated cost breakdown from one of the attorneys that we work with, and he estimates that one case reaching trial will cost over $135,000 in fees and costs. And that is without the attorney getting paid. For this one particular firm, if their present cases reach trial, they will need over $4 million to cover the costs. It is my belief that the victims of the worst medical scandal in modern history deserve the very best legal representation in existence, and that is expensive. Now, we can win this, and we will, but we need your help. Themis was conceived as a charity with the goal of funding lawsuits for US detransitioners, and we believe that in order to stop the fraudulent and damaging practice of US gender-affirming care, we must work together to make the system in the US bring justice. So we are meeting with attorneys who want to take the cases. We are actively seeking out skilled attorneys who have the ability to adequately represent these cases, and we're educating them about the unique needs and problems that detransitioned people experience. We have a directory of attorneys on our website, and if you are an attorney and would like to talk to us, please email us. We're connecting these people together. We're expanding the number and skill set of experts and consultants who are able to provide needed services for these cases, such as expert testimony and medical records review. And if you are neither an attorney or an expert, you can join with us to provide funding. And I'm sorry to be another person asking for money, but we do need a lot of money. We're in need of your generous donations, be it small or large. We'd love to have you as a sustaining monthly donor. We're a registered 501c3 charity in the US. All donations are tax deductible. We have almost no overhead. We're all volunteering. And so far, we have helped to fund 3 cases to the tune of about $40,000. And we do have funds, but we need a lot more. And if you have a podcast or a YouTube channel and you'd like to interview us, we would love to talk with you. We have some materials out in the back. I have some pamphlets, and I have a little QR code if you'd like to donate and join us. And with that, I will say thank you for your time. That's our website.